joyful, joyful and triumphant. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee.
Oh my goodness, what in the world? You're a little bit, too chipper there, Lammy.
What are you talking about? I've got the joy down in my heart.
Where?
That's right, down in my heart. It's the best. Oh, come on, Humphrey, come on. Don't you know what day it is? It's getting closer and closer to Christmas. This is going to be great.
Yeah, that holiday's coming up. I forgot, I know.
You forgot? What are you talking about, Humphrey?
Oh, yeah, no, when you get to be my age, you forget a few things here and there. Right. And I'm trying not to be all, bah humbug and stuff, but,
Oh, Humphrey, come on, it's Christmas, and it's so much fun, and there's so much fun and laughter and joy. Don't you have the joy in your heart?
Well, I guess I'm a little happy at times,
No, I'm not even talking about just being happy. I'm talking about joy.
What are you talking about there, little whippersnapper? I said I was a bit happy.
Yeah, but this is so much more than just happy. Yeah, guess what?
What?
Well, I was here the other week, and I was talking to Jack, and Jack was talking all about hope.
Oh, yeah, hope. I hope I don't feel unhappy, right? Isn't that about what the hope is all about?
Well, no, hope is so much more. It's so much more because we think about hope as being hoping for Jesus.
Oh, okay.
And then last week, guess who was here?
I don't know. Schnickelfritz.
Who? Wait, who's Schnickelfritz?
I don't know. Just coming up with something there, Lemmy.
Well, no, it was Miss Mary, and Miss Mary told me all about peace. And it's not just peace that you go,
You okay there?
Oh, yeah. No, it's not just that peace. It's peace that just really is bringing about new creation, and everything is good, and you make everything right, and it brings real peace. And guess what?
What?
Peace is really about Jesus.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm getting it.
And then today, it's all about joy. And joy is all about not just being happy because things are going okay, but joy is actually a choice that you can make because you know Jesus. Isn't it amazing? Come on.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is that joy is a lot more than just being happy, and it's more than what's going on in our life. So unlike what our circumstances are going through and things happening, we can still find joy. Am I right?
You got it! So come on, let's be joyful! It's almost Christmas, but also we can be joyful because it's Jesus and we're celebrating Him. So let's sing joyful. You're not singing.
Oh, sorry, I kind of don't know the tune.
Well, let's try this one. Joy to the world. You're not singing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying here, my best.
How about, I've got the joy down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. I've got the joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. Yay!
Hey kids, isn't this awesome? It is so amazing that we're getting so much closer to Christmas. And that should make us definitely happy. But, as Lammy was telling Humphrey, there is so much more to it than just being happy. We can be filled with joy. But what is joy? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're going to be talking about that. Do you remember for the first 2 weeks what we talked about so far? First, we talked about hope. And I have here a family tree that talks all about that, story of stories that leading up to Jesus, all the people that God made a big promise to. And who were some of those people? Well, God started with Abraham and Sarah and said, I am promising to make you a great nation. And then we have later on Judah, and God promised Judah, one of the sons of Jacob, that a king would come through him. But when would that king come? We have to wait, because then later, a woman named Ruth, who is actually a person who is outside God's big family, God welcomed in, which was crazy at the time. But then, in addition to that, she became a great-grandmother of one of the greatest kings, the king of Israel, David. And God made a big promise to David. He said that a king would come through him, yes, but an eternal king, one that would be on the throne forever. What? And so all through the Old Testament, then in Isaiah, there was a prophet Isaiah who came along who gave even more details about this exciting time that there would be a man coming called the Messiah, the King. And so they were waiting and waiting for God to fulfill his promises. But guess what? He did fulfill his promise. That's the hope. And even today, we still have hope that we can look back and say, Jesus died and rose again for me, and then look ahead and say, he's coming back. Then last week we talked about peace. Remember peace? And how God brings us peace during this time. And that's not just this peace that goes, I feel good. No, it's more like shalom. What is that? That's like God bringing about all things to make new and make right. And he wants to use you to do that. But guess what? Today, we're talking about the joy part. And this is an exciting story because if you haven't heard the whole story of the Christmas story, this is a wonderful story because it's all about God coming from his throne above and sending his son Jesus, who was with God the Father, to earth as a baby. Now, you'd think he'd come as a mighty warrior or something amazing, but he didn't. He came as a baby in a weak, humble way to a poor family. Why did he do that? Well, let's find out. So, in the book of Luke, we have a story where it starts off with a Roman emperor saying that he wants to count everybody. He has such a big kingdom. He's like, I want to make sure I'm so big and so important that I'm going to count all the people that I have around me. So he sent out a word to say, I want everybody to go back to their hometown to get counted. So Joseph, a humble, poor man, and his betrothed woman, who's a woman named Mary, they traveled all the way from Nazareth to Bethlehem. And when they got to Bethlehem, though, we find that there was no room anywhere for them to stay. And it ends up that they had to stay someplace, not sure exactly where, but in a place where there were animals, because there was no room for them in the inn. But guess what? It's in this very humble, sad, small little place that God did a big thing. What did he do? It was then that Jesus was born. And Jesus is fully God and fully man. He came to earth as a baby in such a small way to do big things for the world. Because if he came as a big king like the Roman emperor who was counting all those people, that would sound like, oh, I'm just here for very important people. I'm only here because I'm powerful. But no, God had a whole different idea about what his kingdom was about. In fact, then on the hillside outside of Bethlehem, there were these men called shepherds. What is a shepherd? They took care of sheep. And they were on the hillside keeping watch over their sheep at night. And again, these guys were, if you were a shepherd, it was not exactly like a great job. It was pretty much a little bit of a sad job. Like, people didn't really love to hang out with shepherds. You probably stank a little bit because you were hanging out with sheep. But you were just not important. So, you would think, here's these guys out on the hillside just keeping watch over their flocks at night, doing their thing. But guess what? On this night, an angel comes among them. And of course, they were frightened. But the angel said, do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy, right? In fact, that's our verse for the day. But the angel said to them, I bring you good news of great joy for all people. Why? Because tonight, there is a baby that was born that is called the Messiah, the Savior of the world. Go find this baby. And then more angels came and gave glory to God, praising God in the highest. So what do you think these shepherds did? Well, they ran to Bethlehem. And they went to Bethlehem to find this baby. And when they came, they worshiped him because they knew that this was the Messiah, God's son. Now, do you think they just kept that to themselves? No. Once they came and worshiped Jesus, they left him praising God and giving glory. They were filled with joy, and they told everyone about him. But Mary, remembering all these things, pondered them in her heart. Now later, when Jesus was 8 days old, they took him to the temple. And when they did, there were two other people who were waiting and waiting, filled with hope. Remember our timeline. They knew the story of God. They knew God's big family. They knew his promises that was supposed to come, and they had hope that the Messiah was going to come. And when the man Simeon saw Jesus, he knew this was the Messiah, and he praised God that he could stay alive to see him come to earth. And he was filled with joy. This was a joyful occasion. But guess what? The story doesn't end here just with Christmas, because Jesus grew up, right? And when Jesus grew up, he actually had a time with his disciples right before he was crucified. and he told them all about God's love for his people and how he wanted his people to be part of his big family. And he said all these things to his disciples, and then he said, these things I've spoken to you, that you may have joy and have it joy to the fullest. Joy overflowing. Joy, complete joy. This is amazing, right? Jesus knew that he had to go to the cross to die for you, but it was actually a sense of joy for him to do that because he knew what was going to happen. Because of the cross, and then because he rose again, you can experience that joy of being part of his big family. Isn't that awesome? It's kind of funny to think of it this way, but we can only really celebrate Christmas the way we do because of Easter, right? And that should bring us the most joy of all, that Jesus came to earth as a baby, he grew up, he died on the cross, and he rose again, bringing about new life and new creation for you and me. Isn't that amazing? That should bring us filled and full of joy this holiday season. So I hope that you have a joyful time celebrating Jesus.